Road work, new members of the EDC welcomed, and the chief comments on some police incident details on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, March 26th, 2013. I'm Sarah Colvin. Well, springtime means flowers and warmer weather, and here in New England, road work. Barnstable Director of Public Works Dan Santos says spring road work will soon begin here in town.
One of the roads that we're going to be finishing up on in Phase 3 is the Burses Way project in the area of the Youth and Community Center down to High School Road Extension. Other roads that we'll be working on or completing is Great Marsh Road, where we started some work last year in Centerville. We'll be finishing with a top coat there, hopefully this spring. And in the Enterprise Road Incorporation behind the mall, we'll be doing a reconstruction, including drainage of that road, which is actually going to start this week. So we've put out a press release this morning about that, so people should be careful and look to what's going to be happening there as far as the way they're driving through the area.
You'll be able to keep up to date with projects, detours, and road closures online. Just visit the town's website. You can also check up on Facebook. Santos says further repairs in much-needed areas are also on tap for this spring.
Basically overlay work just to improve the situation before we do a major reconstruction would be on Lincoln Road, C Street from South Street south, and Mary Dunn Road, which is another road with significant problems. We'll be working on the section from Route 6A up to the railroad bridge, which is the town-owned portion of Mary Dunn, which is in bad shape. Unfortunately, Mary Dunn Road is partly town-owned and partly privately owned, so we have to be careful about the work.
Oak Street in West Barnstable is another area where you'll see crews doing work.
Undergoing a major reconstruction. We're opening the bids on that this week. That will include drainage, removing the road surface that's there, and rebuilding with a new paved surface.
Keep up to date with Barnstable road work online, town.barnstable.ma.us. The Barnstable Economic Development Commission has 3 new members. 2 attended this morning's meeting and introduced themselves to the board. David Wood owns Puff the Magic on Main Street, Hyannis.
I came to Cape Cod in the mid-90s. I was in the music business. Hi.
Good morning.
Traveled everywhere in the world twice, and when I got out of that, I started a little bar on Main Street called Puff the Magic. It's the only place you can smoke indoors on Cape Cod, and I did that now for 15 years.
Nice. Well, welcome aboard.
It's been hard every single winter, so I look forward to trying to find a way to make it not so hard in the winter for me and others.
And Sarah Cushing of Marston's Mills is a healthcare writer.
I live in Marston's Mills. I currently work for a healthcare marketing agency in Braintree, and actually just started that job a couple months ago. But prior to that was with Partners Healthcare for 5 years. Before that was with Tufts Health Plan for 3, and with Genzyme Corporation for 3 years prior to that. So we've kind of sort of touched all of the areas of healthcare that generally affect the state of Massachusetts. Right now I'm a medical writer for the marketing agency.
Great.
Yeah.
So your background is in marketing and sales?
I started out in marketing and sales, and then transitioned over to, working for an agency that's primary clientele is pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. My graduate degree actually was rooted in public health, so I thought that I would be eventually ending up in the public health
During
field.
this morning's meeting, Chair Chris Kehoe talked about the EDC's interaction with other boards and committees.
Working with the other boards and commissions in the town, and behind me on the, what do they call that?
Smart board.
Smart board are a list of the different boards and commissions. And Joanne had provided me with some info on what our job is, and one of the things that it is the BEDC is an advisory committee to the town. The BEDC, in conjunction with other town agencies and committees, establishes methods to increase job opportunities and so on. So one of the things that we want to do is, and I want to make it perfectly clear, we do not want to monitor any other committee. We want to look at these committees and see how they work within what we're doing, and there's quite a few different ones. You know, I have my list here. You know, some of the more important ones I think are, let me think here, like the Hyannis Main Street Waterfront District Committee, the Housing Committee, Historical Committee, Board of Health. And again, it's not limited to the ones that I just put a little check by the ones that I thought were important. The Zoning Board of Appeals, the Waterways Committees, and you know, everything touches, economic development touches on every aspect of life, from you know, from housing, and I don't say that the Council on Aging isn't important, but I don't think it's going to be a priority for us given.
You can watch this morning's meeting online at the town's website. Well, several drug arrests were recently made. Chief of Police Paul McDonald has details.
Last Thursday morning, the narcotics unit, along with the street crime unit, they executed 3 search warrants and they arrested 4 individuals. These are 4 individuals that are well known to law enforcement, particularly in Barnstable County. The first 2 arrests was Marcel Young and Norman Chauncey. They were both arrested and charged with distribution of a Class A substance, to it heroin. Marcel Young is currently out on bail. He is now being held on $20,000 bail because of this recent incident. And Norman Chauncey, Norman's 55 years old. We go back 25 years, and I, as a patrolman, was chasing around Norman way back then. So both of those gentlemen are well known to law enforcement. And the other 2 were Brendan Simpkins and Jeremy Robinson. They were both charged with possession of a half pound of weed, and when they executed the search warrant, they found a loaded .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol in their apartment. Brendan Simpkins and Jeremy Robinson, they are half brothers. Brendan Simpkins was recently just arrested. He was part of that debacle regarding the DPH drug lab up in Jamaica Plain. His 5 to 6 years, he was found guilty, and he was recently just released. So again, we picked him up again. He's out on $25,000 cash bail. Mr. Robinson, he was charged, and he's out on pending a Superior Court case on $20,000 cash bail, so we are trying to get his bail revoked. So these are 4 major individual drug dealers that the narcotics unit, street crime unit, specifically targeted.
The chief says police were also busy dealing with a late-night altercation in Marston's Mills over the weekend.
The officer responding regarding shots fired. Regarding one of the persons that called was Mr. Dwayne Peters, was his actual parents were called. Apparently, Mr. Peters and his next-door neighbor, they are known to each other. They basically, before this incident, they were friends. They were drinking for most of the day and most of the night. They get first into a verbal confrontation, then they get into a physical confrontation at the house. Words were said. Mr. Peters left. When he left, on the way out the door, apparently he picked up some items in the yard and began throwing them at the neighbor's house. The neighbor got upset. So he went out and got this bow and arrow, went out and fired 1 arrow through his vehicle. It pierced both windows, and then continued another 100 feet, and then ended up in a trailer in a yard next door to Mr. Peters. Mr. Peters then got upset, and he went to his house and got a shotgun, went back out, and he blasted out both windows in his neighbor's car. Mr. Peters then retreated back into the house. That's when we got the call. And we could actually hear Mr. Peters' father's on the 911 call pleading with the son just to give him the shotgun. Then you could hear the cruisers responding. Once the cruiser turned on the road, Mr. Peters did give the shotgun to his father. He then went out and concealed himself in a wooded area in front of the house. And when the cruiser rolled up on it, he, for whatever reason, charged the cruiser and threw himself up on the hood of the car for whatever reason. We have no idea. And he was subsequently arrested.
Fortunately, no one was hurt in that incident.
Multiple shots fired. I mean, one gentleman, he fired that arrow, and it was a high-power bow, and, unfortunately, they did not take any caution to see what was behind their target they were shooting at, which is what you should always do. Fortunately, nobody was in it with the bow. And Mr. Peters, once he fired 2 shots at the vehicle, he then jacked off several other rounds up in the air. So, fortunately, nobody else got injured. Mr. Peters is still being held on $5,000 cash bail.
Chief McDonald says alcohol was certainly a factor in that late-night incident. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.